Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 3 of our reading of Alfred Hitchcock Presents Stories Not for the Nervous. And in the last part, we finished off the previous story, which was To the Future by Ray Bradbury, and now we are reading a story by Gerald Kersh called River of Riches, I believe. Anyways, as always, we're going to go over the copyright information, which will be on your screen right now. Copyright is back from 1965, I believe. The author gratefully acknowledges the invaluable assistance of Robert Arthur in the preparation of this volume, published by Dell, and it has a copyright information there for Random House and Dell. All rights reserved, it says, and then it also lists the different printings, which is helpful. Of course, according to the cover, this is the first time it was actually in paperback. Now, I'm going to leave the acknowledgments here on the screen for a little bit. There are 2 pages of them, and you can read those as you wish. Anyways, in the last book, we were getting to know Pilgrim, John Pilgrim, not to be confused with Scott Pilgrim. And it's going over his life story, I believe. So, anyways, we are going to pick up where we left off. The following morning, I awoke to find my attendants all gone. They had paid themselves in trade goods, leaving me with only what I slept in, pajamas, plus a rifle, a bandolier of 30-30 cartridges, my papers, and some dried beef. Goodness only knows what might have happened to me if I had not been rescued by cannibals. The jolly fine fellows they were too, sportsmen, I assure you. They only ate women past marriageable age. They took me to their chief. I thought I was in a pretty sticky spot at first, but he gave me some stew to eat. It was monkey, I hope. And while I ate, I looked about me. Anyone could see with half an eye that the old gentleman wanted my rifle. Now I reasoned as fellows. I am outnumbered about 250 to 1 by savages, armed with spears and poisoned arrows. In the circumstances, my rifle must be worse than useless. Better make a virtue of the inevitable and give it to him before he takes it away. Be magnanimous, Jack. So expressing delight at the flavor of the stew, I gave him the rifle and the bandolier. He was overwhelmed with joy and gratitude and wanted to know what he could do for me. He offered me girls, more stew, necklaces of human teeth. I conveyed to him that I might prefer a few rubies. Heartbroken, he said. He said that he had none of the red stones, only the green ones, and handed me a fistful of emeralds. To the value, conservatively, of 1,000 rifles at $120 apiece. I thanked him politely, controlling my emotions as our sort of people are brought up to do, but he mistook my impassive air for disappointment. He was downcast for a moment or two. Then he brightened and said to me, "Wait, I have something that will make you very rich. It has made me chief, but now I'm too old to play. I will give it to you." Then he fumbled in what might laughingly be described in his clothes and procured, guess what? A nut. Upon my word, a common nut, something like a walnut, but smooth and much larger in circumference. At one end, much larger in circumference at one end than the other. Through years of handling, it had a wonderful patina, like very old bronze. "You know tick-tock?" the old boy asked. I know Tokti, I said. "It's a game played by children in Ecuador." "You play?" he asked. "Never. In Ecuador, I have seen it played. In England, we call it marbles." Of these places," said the chief, "I have never heard. Here it is. TikTok." Not to be confused with the video streaming service. There he was. Oh, then he went on to explain. It took all night that the TikTok nut was not like other nuts. Everything, said the chief, everything could think. Everything, said the chief, everything could think a little. Even a leaf had sense enough to turn itself to the light. Even a rat, even a woman, sometimes even a hard-shelled nut. Now, when the world was made, the deuce of a long time, man having been created, there was a little intelligence left over for distribution. Woman got some, rats got some, leaves got some, insects got some. In short, at last, there was very little left. Then the TikTok bush spoke up and begged, a little for us. The answer came, there are so many of you and so little left to go around, but justice must be done. 1 in every 10 million of you shall think with a man and do his bidding. We have spoken. So the old geezer affirmed the kernel of the TikTok nut. So the old geezer affirmed the kernel of the TikTok nut came to resemble the human brain. Stroking his great knife, he assured me that he had many times seen one, and the resemblance was uncanny. Superficially, you understand. To only one TikTok nut in 10 million, we vouchified the gift of thought, and the nuts, being very prolific, grew in the jungles in great profusion. Anyone who could find the 10 millionth nut, the thinking nut, was assured of good fortune. The old savage told me, because this nut would obey its master. Now play TikTok, he said. I said, but I don't know how. He did not answer. He led me to a strip of ground, stamped flat and level and polished by innumerable feet. At one end, someone had described a circle drawn with ochre. In the circle was arranged 10 nuts in this pattern. And I can probably put that on screen real quick. Let's see. The pattern is right here. I'm going to take a picture of that. Good. The object of the game was to knock the 10 nuts out of the circle in the fewest possible shots. As a game, I should say that TikTok was much more difficult than pool, pyramids, or snooker. You shot from a distance of about 7 feet. It was a good player who could clear the circle in 5 shots, a remarkable one who could do it in 4, a superlative one who could do it in 3, flipping the oval TikTok nut with a peculiar twist of the thumb. Several young fellows were playing, but more were betting their very loincloths on the champion who had recently made a 3. Now, the old codger whispered, rub the TikTok between your hands, breathe on it, and shout without voice. Shout at the back of your mind, telling it what to do. Challenge the champion, stake your shirt. The top of my pajamas could be no great loss. Furthermore, I had the emerald, so I took it off and offered my challenge. The young buck felt the cotton and put down against it a necklace of good nuggets, and the largest of which was about as big as a grape. He played first. On his first shot, out went 5. Second, out went 4. The last was easy. He had scored a 3. And now it was my turn. Caressing my nut, I said to it, without talking, now, old thing, show them what you can do. Try for a 1, just to astonish the natives. Without much hope, and with no skill at all. I flipped my nut. It seemed to stop halfway gyrating. Everyone laughed, and my opponent reached for my pajama top, when suddenly my nut kind of shouldered its way forward into the circle, and with something devilishly like careful aim, spun its way into the tin and pushed them one by one beyond the bounds of the ring. You never heard such a shout. I had broken a record. Picking my nut up, I caressed it and warmed it in my hand. The chief said, This This I have never seen. 2, yes. 1, no. I know what it is. The markings inside the nut must exactly match the markings of your brain. You are a very lucky man. Feeling the weight of the necklace I had won, I asked if there was any more stuff like this hereabouts. He said no, but didn't regard it especially. The ex-champion had won it downstream, where they picked it out of the river bed and gave it to their woman for ornaments. A string of your enemy's teeth meant something, but the yellow stuff was too soft and too heavy. If you want it, take your TikTok nut, and you can win as much of it as you can carry away. You and 10 strong men. I promised him that when I came back, I would bring more guns and bullets, hatchets, knives, and all his heart could desire, if he would lend me a great canoe and the service of half a dozen sturdy men to paddle it. Together with food and water, he agreed, and we took off. In fine, I cleaned out the village and went on downstream with two war canoes, all loaded with gold and other valuables such as garnets, emeralds, etc. I should have left it at that, but success had gone to my head. On the way, I stayed the night in the shack of a petty trader in a Portuguese, from whom I bought a whole suit of white duck clothes, a couple of shirts and pants, and some other stuff. Your fame has gone before you, he said, looking enviously at me, and then at the gold nuggets I had paid him with. They call you the TikTok man, up and down the river. Now I happen to know that no white man can play TikTok. It takes 20 years to learn. How did you do it? I said, a mere knack. Well, give me another nugget and I'll give you some good advice. Thank you. My advice is to make straight for the big river, and so to the coast. Don't stop to play at the next village. There is only one. There's only one? Wait. Oh, here. Oh, there's only one. You may regret it. The Esproco are the most villainous Indians in these parts. Don't push even your luck too far. 4 ounces of gold, and I'll let you have a fine weapon, a revolver, all the way from Belgium. The revolver I took, but not as advice, and we went on. At dawn, in the late afternoon, several canoes came out to meet us. My men spat and said, Esproco, master, very bad. What will they attack us? I asked. No, they indicated that the Esproco Indian was the worst trickster and cheat in the Mato Grosso. But I fondled the TikTok nut while observing that in every canoe sat a girl wearing a necklace of raw rubies, and little else. The men, big fellows, as Indians go, had an easy, cozy way with them, all smiles, no weapons, full of good humor. They hailed me as Senor TikTok, while the girls threw flowers. My leading paddler, the stroke, as it were, growled, When espresso bring flowers, keep your hand on your knife. A savage version of Timeo denos et dona ferentes. Still, I gave orders to land and was received with wild delight. The chief ordered several young goats killed. I presented him with a sack of salt, which is highly prized thereabouts. There was a banquet with a profusion of some slightly effervescent drinks in the nature of the Mexican mezcal, only lighter and breezier. In a little while, we started to talk business. I expressed interest in rubies. The chief said, "Those red things, but they are nothing." And taking a magnificent necklace from one of the girls, he tossed it into the river. I was to learn later that he had a net there to catch it. I had heard that you were interested in stones, he said, while I gaped like a fish, and he went away and came back with an uncut diamond of the Brazilian variety, as big as your two fists. I displayed no emotion, but said, "Interesting. How much do you want for it?" He said, "It has no price. I have been around and know the value your people set on such stones. I also know, we all know on this river, what would happen if the news got about that there was gold, rubies, emeralds, and diamonds hereabouts. Your people would come down on us like jaguars and drive us off the face of the earth. As it is, we have enough. We are contented. We regard such stuff as this as pretty for unmarried girls. No, my friend, it is not for sale. But I tell you what, it being a plaything, let us play for it. You have a great reputation as a TikTok player. As it happens, so have I. Now, what have you to stake against this stone?" 3 canoe loads of treasure, I said. At this, one of the sons chimed in with, "Don't do it, father. The man is a wizard. All the river knows it. He has a thinking nut." Apparently tipsy, the chief shouted, "Silence, brat. There is no such thing. It is a superstition. TikTok is a game of skill, and I am the best man on the river." He became angry. "Who questions my skill?" Nobody did. The circle was made and 10 nets arranged at the proper distances. I begged my host to shoot first. There was a breathless hush as he went down on his knees and shot a perfect 2, at which there was a murmur of applause. When I stroked my nut and asked it for a 1, out it went spinning like a little whirlwind, and a 1 it was. It is etiquette in the TikTok game for the winner to pick up the fighting nuts and bring them back to the base. Loser shoots first this time, and the chief shot a 3. I was feeling warm-hearted. Who wouldn't? If he was certain to win a diamond, that would make the Kohinoor and the Colonian diamonds look like stones in a $50 engagement ring. So I said to my nut, "This time, for the sport of the thing, get me a 5, but last shot will have another one, and the best out of 3 games." It did as it was bid, and I lost with a 5. The chief was elated, got our nuts, and handed me mine with great courtesy. I shot with perfect confidence. Imagine my horror when, instead of moving with grace and deliberation, it reeled drunkenly forward and barely reached the periphery of the circle. I wondered, could that mezcal-like stuff I had drunk had gone to its head through mine? Thinking with all my might, I shot again and knocked 1 nut out of the ring. A 3rd time, and I finished with an 8. The chief went up to pick up our nuts. I was numb with grief. He handed me the nut I had played with that last game with. I looked at it, and it was not my own. Then the truth dawned on me. The old rascal had swapped nuts after the second game. Simply Simple as that. But I kept my temper because in a split second everyone had stopped laughing and every man had produced a machete, an axe, a bow, a spear. I said, "There is some mistake here, sir. This is not my TikTok nut. Then whose is it? Yours. You are no doubt inadvertently holding mine in your hand. Give it back to me. Give it back, if you please." And driven beyond patience, I made a grab at it. I was fast, but he was faster and surprisingly strong. I, too, am tolerably strong in the fingers. We stood locked hand to hand for about 20 seconds. Then I heard and felt a sharp little crack. So did he, and he stood back, waving away his tribesmen who were closing in. He held out his hand with dignity. He held the common TikTok nut that he had palmed off on me. In my palm lay my own true nut, but split down the center, exposing the kernel. I looked at it fascinated. You know, I studied medicine once. Might be in Harley Street by now, only there was a bureaucratic misunderstanding about four microscopes I borrowed. Silly old arses. I'd have got them out of pawn and put them back where I'd found them as soon as my remittance came in, but no, they gave me the sack. However, I have read some anatomy, and I solemnly swear that the kernel of my poor TikTok nut definitely and in detail resembled the human brain. Convolutions, lobes, cerebellum, cerebrum, medulla in every respect. Most remarkably of all, when I touched it affectionately with my fingertip, it throbbed very faintly, and then lay still, whereupon some of the virtue seemed to drain out of me, and I cried like a child. But I pulled myself together and said, "Well, the bet is off, the game is null and void. Let me get my men together and push off." Then, in the light of the torches, I saw bundles on the shore, vast familiar bundles. To save your men unnecessary exertion, the chief said, I had them unload your canoe for you. I wish you no harm, but put it to you that you go quietly back where you belong. Come, you shall not go empty-handed. Take as many small nuggets as your two hands can hold, and depart in peace. You overreached yourself. I would have given you the diamond for the thinking nut, and gladly, in fair exchange. But no, you had to cheat and do bad trade. To bet on a sure thing, in this life, nothing is sure. I said, holding out the revolver, "And what will you give me for this?" "Oh, 2 double handfuls of gold. May I suggest 3? If you will allow me to test it first." I did. He fired one shot into the dark. I took the gun back and said, "First, the gold." Down by the river, I took the liberty of scooping up a handful of heavy clay and filling up the barrel of that revolver. It would dry like brick. That old rogue would never play TikTok again. But in burning the remains of my thinking nut, I had a weird feeling that I was leaving behind a certain essential portion of myself. Gold and jewels I can get again, but that never. So I got to the coast and took ship as a passenger. This time on a heavy freighter bound for Tampa, Florida. What with one thing and another, I arrived with only a few nuggets left, which I keep as, I don't know, call it keepsakes. You have been very kind to me. Let me give you one, a very little one, a very little one, and then I must be on my way. Have this one." He dropped a heavy gold pellet on the wet table. It was not much larger than a pea, but shaped or misshapen beyond human conception. Fire and water had done that. Have you made have it made into a tie pin?" said Pilgrim. But I couldn't take a valuable thing like this," I cried, "without doing something for you in return." "Not a bit of it. We Limeys must stick together, and I'm on my way to Detroit. About 7 days from now, John Pilgrim at Detroit's leading hotel will find me. Help me on my way, if you like, but," he shrugged. Oh, is that okay? Wait. "I have only $10, I said, deeply moved by a certain sadness in Pilgrim's eyes. "You're welcome to that. You're very obliging. It shall be returned with interest. I must go now," he said. "So must I," said he. Okay. We've been reading from Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Stories Not for the Nervous. And specifically, we've been reading River of Riches by Gerald Kersh, if I remember right. If you like this content, then make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, all that information will be in the description below, along with a link to the Discord server. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.